The small apartment was quiet, only the sound of water dripping from the bathroom. The human, Daniel, had just finished his shower. Steam still clung to his skin as he walked out, a towel hanging loosely around his shoulders. He was relaxed, thinking only about dinner and maybe a movie. He did not know that his alien roommate had chosen this exact moment to step inside. The alien girl, Lyra, opened the door without knocking. She was carrying a small container of food she had prepared, her long fingers gripping it carefully. Her species had skin that shimmered softly under the dim light, like silver dust floating across the surface. Her bright eyes reflected everything with sharp detail. She expected to see Daniel reading or sitting on the couch. Instead, her gaze froze. Daniel stood there, half naked, unprepared, caught in the most vulnerable moment a person could imagine. His face went pale first, then turned red with shock. He gasped, clutching the towel tighter, but it slipped in his nervous hands. Lyra's mouth opened slightly, yet no words came out. For a heartbeat, the whole apartment felt like it had stopped breathing. The silence was so thick it weighed down on both of them. Daniel stumbled back, pressing his back against the wall as if he could vanish through it. I didn't, he stammered, trying to form words, but his throat felt dry. Lyra blinked, her eyes wide, her cheeks glowing faintly in a color that only her species could show. She had never seen a human's body uncovered before. Not like this. To her people, nudity was rare, private, almost sacred. And what she saw made her freeze, not only out of embarrassment, but because something about Daniel's body seemed different. She dropped the container of food on the floor with a soft thud. The smell of warm spices spread through the air, but neither of them noticed. Daniel panicked, rushing to grab the towel properly around his waist. "I didn't know you were coming in. You should have knocked." He shouted, but his voice cracked, more from shame than anger. Lyra stepped back, her glowing eyes darting over him once more, then quickly away. Her chest rose and fell fast, as if she had just run a long distance. She whispered something under, her breath too quiet for him to catch. "What?" Daniel asked, confused. She shook her head, her silver-like hair brushing across her cheeks. "Nothing," she said quickly, though her voice trembled. He noticed the way she wouldn't look at him directly. Her hands were shaking and her face glowed brighter, like her skin was betraying emotions she didn't want to show. Daniel felt his heart pound. It wasn't just embarrassment anymore. Something in her reaction made him uneasy. Why did she look shocked? No, almost afraid? The silence between them stretched longer, every second heavier than the last. He thought about apologizing again, but the words stuck in his throat. She too seemed trapped between leaving the room and staying frozen where she stood. Finally, Lyra turned quickly, almost too quickly, and rushed out the door, leaving the dropped container on the floor. The door slammed behind her and Daniel was left alone, his towel still barely holding. He pressed his hand against his chest, trying to calm his heart. "What just happened?" he muttered to himself. He bent down to pick up the food, but his hand stopped halfway. Her whispered words echoed faintly in his memory. Though unclear, he thought he heard her say one word. It sounded like Mark. Mark? What Mark? He shook his head, unsure if he had imagined it. But her wide eyes, the glow on her cheeks, the way she ran, it was real. Something about what she saw disturbed her. Something he didn't understand. Daniel carried the food to the table and sat down, but he couldn't eat. His mind spun in circles. Why did she look so shocked? Why did she look at him as if he wasn't just a human but something else? Outside the closed door, Lyra pressed her back against the wall, breathing hard. Her hands trembled as she clutched her chest. She whispered again to herself, words only her kind would know. "It's true. The mark of the warrior." Her heart raced, fear mixing with something she didn't want to name. She had only meant to bring him dinner, but what she saw in that moment could not be undone. Inside, Daniel sat in silence, still confused, still burning with embarrassment, but now also filled with a strange sense of dread. This was no ordinary accident. It was the beginning of something he could not yet imagine. The next morning, Daniel woke up with a heavy feeling in his chest. The memory of last night, the accident, the look on Lyra's face, her sudden escape, played again and again in his mind. He had expected things to feel awkward, but he had not expected silence to feel so loud. When he entered the kitchen, Lyra was already there. She was sitting at the small table, her hands wrapped around a steaming cup, her glowing eyes staring down into the drink as if it could give her answers. Normally she greeted him with a nod, sometimes even a small smile. But today she did not even glance up. "Morning," Daniel said, trying to sound casual. His voice cracked with nervousness. Lyra gave no reply. She lifted the cup and drank slowly, her face calm but distant. The silver shimmer of her skin was faint, almost dull, as if she was hiding her natural glow. Daniel shifted uncomfortably, opened the fridge, and pulled out a carton of milk. The simple action felt strange under her silent gaze, though she wasn't even looking directly at him. He poured himself a glass, but his hand shook slightly and milk spilled onto the counter. Normally, Lyra would have laughed softly, maybe even helped him clean up. This time, she didn't move. "Look," Daniel finally said, turning toward her. "About last night. I didn't mean for that to happen. It was an accident." Her fingers tightened around the cup. For a second, he thought she might say something. Instead, she stood up, rinsed her cup in the sink, and walked out of the kitchen without a single word. Daniel's heart sank. The silence stretched through the whole day. She avoided him, moving like a shadow in the small apartment. When he tried to talk, she pretended not to hear. When he entered the living room, she left. It was like a wall had been built between them overnight, and he had no idea how to tear it down. By evening, the weight of it was too much. Daniel found her standing on the balcony staring at the city lights. The alien skyline glowed with strange colors, neon signs written in languages he still didn't fully understand. The wind tugged at her silver hair, making it shimmer under the streetlights. He stepped closer. "Lyra," he said quietly. She stiffened but did not turn. "I know you're upset, but I don't understand why. Was it really that bad? You walked in, well, you saw me, okay? Embarrassing, sure. But it doesn't explain why you're acting like I've done something unforgivable." Finally, she turned her head slightly, enough for him to see the side of her face. Her glowing eyes flickered with something he couldn't name: fear, anger, or maybe confusion. "You don't understand," she whispered. "Then explain it to me." His voice was firm now. She shook her head. "I cannot." Daniel felt frustration rising. "Why not? We live together. I'm supposed to trust you. You're supposed to trust me. But right now, I feel like I'm living with a stranger." Her shoulders tensed. For a moment he thought she would break, that she would finally tell him, but then she looked away again, back at the endless city lights. "It's dangerous," she said softly. "If I speak, it could bring harm to both of us." Daniel frowned. "What harm? From who?" She didn't answer. Instead, she wrapped her arms around herself as though cold. Silence filled the air once more, heavy and sharp. Daniel wanted to scream, to shake her, to demand answers. But something in her posture, in her trembling hands, stopped him. He realized this wasn't just about embarrassment. She was afraid, truly afraid. The night deepened. Daniel went back inside, but he couldn't stop thinking about her words. Dangerous. What could be dangerous about a simple accident? Unless it wasn't simple at all. Unless what she saw wasn't just his body, but something else. When he tried to sleep, he kept hearing her whisper again, the faint word she had let slip yesterday. "Mark." "What Mark?" He looked at himself in the mirror, pulling his shirt aside. He saw nothing unusual, just scars from childhood accidents, a birthmark on his shoulder, nothing more. But clearly, to her, It meant something different. Out on the balcony, Lyra pressed, her hands to her chest. Her heart beat wildly. She whispered in her alien tongue a language Daniel could never understand. If others discover it, he will not be safe. Her glowing eyes closed tightly. She had seen what no alien should have ever seen on a human's body. It wasn't just an accident. It was a revelation. The silence between them wasn't only awkward anymore. It was dangerous, and Daniel knew deep inside that this silence wouldn't last forever. Daniel barely slept that night. His mind replayed Lyra's words again and again. It's dangerous. She had looked terrified, almost broken when she said it. He didn't know if it was about him or about what she had seen on his body. When morning came, the air between them was still heavy. Lyra moved around the apartment in silence, avoiding his eyes, her steps careful like someone walking through a minefield. Daniel couldn't take it anymore. Lyra, he said, blocking her path as she tried to leave the kitchen. She froze, her silver hair catching the sunlight from the window. Move, she whispered, not looking at him. No, Daniel replied, firmly. His chest was tight, but his voice was steady. This can't go on, you owe me an explanation. Her glowing eyes finally met his, and for the first time he saw the storm inside them. Fear, conflict, guilt. You don't understand what you are, she said softly. Daniel frowned. What I am? I'm just a human. Nothing special. Her lips trembled. Not to my people. The words sent a chill down his spine. What do you mean? He asked, leaning closer. She hesitated, her hands clenching at her sides. Then she whispered, When I saw you yesterday, I saw the mark, the one on your shoulder. Daniel blinked. My birthmark? That's nothing. I've had it since I was a kid. To you, maybe, Lyra said, shaking her head. But to my people, that mark is sacred. It belongs only to those chosen in our oldest legends. It is said that anyone who carries it will have the strength to change the fate of entire worlds. Daniel's mouth went dry. He almost laughed, but the look on her face stopped him. She wasn't joking. That's crazy, he said quickly. It's just a mark, just skin. Her eyes darkened. Then why did my heart stop when I saw it? Why did my body know before my mind could? Daniel, you are not safe. If others discover what you carry, they will take you. They will not ask. They will not care if you believe it or not. Daniel's stomach turned. Take me? For what? Experiments? Worship? Both, Lyra whispered. Some would see you as a weapon. Others would see you as a god. But either way, you would not be free. Silence stretched between them. Daniel's head spun. Just yesterday, he had been worried about paying rent and buying groceries. Now, his alien roommate was telling him that his birthmark might change the galaxy. He shook his head. This doesn't make sense, I'm just... me. Lyra stepped closer, her voice trembling. That is why it is dangerous. You don't even realize what you are. You don't know the weight of it. But others, they will know. Daniel swallowed. Hard. Her fear was real. He could feel it. And deep down, some part of him remembered strange dreams from childhood. Dreams of battles, of voices calling his name, of stars burning. He had always dismissed them as imagination. But now he wasn't so sure. Why didn't you tell me before? He asked. Her glowing eyes softened with guilt. Because if I speak it aloud, it becomes real. And because I did not want to drag you into my people's wars. I wanted you to live your small, quiet human life. But after last night, I cannot pretend anymore. Daniel's breath came fast. He pressed a hand against his shoulder, over the mark. It felt warm, almost alive. He looked at her with wide eyes. So what now? Do I just wait for someone to come knocking on the door? Her silence was answer enough. Daniel exhaled sharply. This is insane. I didn't ask for any of this. No one ever does, Lyra said. her voice barely audible. She turned away, but Daniel reached out and caught her wrist. "Lyra, are you going to tell anyone?" Her entire body froze. Slowly, she turned back to him, her eyes glowing brighter than before. "If I told, you would already be gone." "No, Daniel, I will. Protect your secret, even if it cost me everything." The seriousness in her voice made his heart pound. She wasn't exaggerating. She meant it. But before he could respond, the door buzzer rang loudly, echoing through the apartment. Both of them jumped. Daniel frowned. "Who's that?" Lyra's face went pale. She didn't answer. Instead, she moved quickly toward the door, her movements sharp, defensive. "Wait," Daniel said, following her. "You're scaring me. Who is it?" Her hand hovered over the door lock, her whole body tense. Then she whispered, "Too soon." They shouldn't have come this soon. Daniel's blood ran cold. The buzzer rang again. The buzzer echoed through the apartment again, sharp and impatient. Daniel's heart pounded as he stared at the door. Whoever it was, Lyra clearly knew more than she was telling. Her silver hair shimmered in the dim light, her glowing eyes fixed on the lock as though opening it would release something terrible. "Don't answer it," Daniel whispered. But Lyra shook her head. "If I ignore them, they'll come back. If I open it, maybe they'll leave." Daniel grabbed her arm. "You're scaring me. Who's out there?" She looked into his eyes, her voice barely more than a breath. "Hunters." The word froze. Him. "Hunters? Hunters for what?" Her lips pressed tight, but her silence gave him the answer. They weren't hunting her. They were hunting him. The buzzer stopped, followed by a sharp knock. A deep alien voice called through the door. "Open. By order of the council, we must inspect your dwelling." Daniel's stomach dropped. "Council? What council? This is my apartment," he whispered harshly. Lyra pushed him back gently but firmly. "Stay out of sight. If they see you, it will be over." Before he could argue, she slipped to the door and opened it only a crack. 3 tall figures stood outside, armored in dark plates that shimmered faintly. Their eyes glowed faintly blue, sharp and cold. They looked like soldiers more than council members. Lyra bowed slightly, her voice steady but cautious. "Is there a problem?" One of them leaned closer. "Reports of unusual energy here. We are checking every unit." His eyes flicked past her shoulder, scanning the space inside. Daniel ducked behind the wall, holding his breath. He felt his heart beating so loudly he was sure they would hear it. Lyra blocked the doorway with her body. "There is no one here but me. You may search if you insist, but I assure you," the soldier cut her off. "We will search." He pushed the door wider. Daniel's pulse raced. If they stepped inside, they would see him instantly. Lyra moved quickly, placing her hand on the soldier's chest. "Wait," she said firmly. "You insult me by doubting my word. Do you not trust one of your own?" The soldier narrowed his eyes. "Your loyalty has always been questioned, Lyra. Do not test our patience." For a moment, Daniel thought she would give up. But then her voice dropped lower, almost trembling but still strong. "If you enter and find nothing, will you accuse me again? Or will you admit that you waste your time while real threats move elsewhere?" The soldier hesitated. The other 2 shifted uneasily. Finally, with a grunt, the leader stepped back. "We will return if suspicion remains. See that nothing unusual happens here." With that, the 3 turned and walked away, their footsteps echoing down the hall. Lyra shut the door quickly and locked it. Her chest rose and fell fast as she leaned against it, her glowing eyes dimming. Daniel stepped out from hiding, his voice shaking. "What the hell was that? Who were they?" She turned toward him slowly. "I told you, hunters, they seek the mark. If they knew you were here, you would already be gone." Daniel rubbed his face, trying to calm down. "This is insane. I didn't ask for any of this. Why should I trust you? Maybe you'll turn me in too." The word slipped out harsher than he meant. Lyra flinched as though struck. Her glowing eyes dimmed even more, sadness flashing across her face. If I wanted to turn you in, I would have stepped aside. I risked everything to stop them. Do you think that was easy? Daniel's anger faded instantly. He remembered how she stood in front of the soldiers, her small frame blocking the entire doorway, her voice trembling but refusing to break. She had protected him without hesitation. He stepped closer, his voice softer. Why? Why protect me when it puts you in danger? She looked down, her fingers curling at her sides. Because I know what they would do to you, and because... Her words trailed off. She struggled to finish, but then whispered, because I don't want to see you taken. Daniel's chest tightened. She wasn't just his roommate anymore. She was his shield. He reached out and touched her shoulder gently. Thank you. Her glowing eyes lifted to his, and for the first time since the accident, she let herself meet his gaze fully. There was fear still, but also something warmer, something fragile growing quietly between them. The silence that had divided them was gone now. In its place was an unspoken bond, forged not by choice, but by danger. That night, Daniel couldn't sleep again. But this time it wasn't only fear keeping him awake. It was the thought of Lyra sitting outside his door, awake, guarding him. He could hear her soft footsteps in the hall, the faint hum of her breathing. She had chosen to protect him. And deep inside, Daniel realized he didn't want to be alone anymore. Outside, the city lights flickered. Somewhere in the shadows, hunters were watching, waiting. But inside the apartment, for the first time, Daniel felt he had an ally. The unexpected bond had been formed, and soon it would be tested. The night passed with heavy silence, broken only by the hum of the city outside. Daniel lay awake in his bed, staring at the ceiling, listening to the faint footsteps of Lyra as she paced the hallway. She was guarding him, even though she didn't say it. Every sound from outside, every car door, every echo in the street made his heart pound faster. By morning, he expected things to calm down, but instead, tension filled the air even more. Lyra was already up, standing near the window, her glowing eyes fixed on the street below. Her skin shimmered faintly, a sign of unease. They're watching, she whispered. Daniel rubbed his tired eyes. Who? The hunters. They didn't leave. They're waiting. He stepped beside her and peeked through the curtain. Across the street, he spotted a figure leaning against a lamppost. At first, he thought it was a normal passerby. But then, the figure turned slightly and Daniel saw the faint blue glow of alien eyes. His stomach twisted. They know I'm here, Daniel muttered. Lyra shook her head. They don't know for sure. If they did, they would storm this place. Right, now they're only watching, waiting for you to make a mistake. Daniel swallowed hard. So what do we do? Hide forever? Her voice was steady but heavy. We prepare. Because when they come again, it won't just be questions at the door, they'll bring force. The day dragged on like a slow nightmare. Daniel tried to distract himself with normal things, making coffee, turning on the news, but every sound made him jump. The hunters never left their position. Sometimes one would vanish into the crowd, only to be replaced by another minutes later. It was clear they were circling like predators. By evening, Daniel couldn't take it anymore. He slammed his fist against the table. This is my life, my home. I can't live like a prisoner. Lyra turned toward him sharply. If you step outside, you won't come back. Do you understand? They're not like you, Daniel. They don't care about human rules or rights. To them, you are property, a mark to claim. Her words stung. He clenched his jaw. I'm not property. I'm not some legend or weapon. I'm just me. She stepped closer, her voice softer now. That's why I'm protecting you, because you don't know how much you matter. But they do. Her glowing eyes locked on his, and for a moment he saw her fear turn into determination. She wasn't just his roommate anymore. She had chosen to stand against her own kind for him. Before Daniel could respond, a loud crash shook the apartment. The window rattled violently. He rushed forward and saw a black shape dart across the roof across the street. "They're moving," Lyra said, her voice sharp. "They're testing the building." Daniel felt cold sweat on his back. What do they want from me exactly? Just the mark? Her silence was answer enough. Finally she spoke. "They believe the mark is the key to awakening the old weapon. The one buried beneath this city long before your people even knew of ours." Daniel froze. "Weapon? What kind of weapon?" Her eyes dimmed. "One strong enough to wipe out a planet." The weight of her words crashed down on him. His throat felt dry. "And they think I can unlock it?" "Yes," she whispered. "They believe you are the trigger. That is why they will not stop until they have you." Daniel's heart pounded faster than ever. Yesterday, his biggest problem had been embarrassment. Now his very existence could bring destruction. He grabbed her arm desperately. "We have to get out of here. Leave the city. Hide somewhere they can't follow." Lyra shook her head. "Running will only delay them. They will always find you. The only way to survive is to fight." Daniel laughed nervously. "Fight? Look at me. I'm not a fighter. I don't even know how to throw a proper punch." But Lyra's eyes glowed brighter, her expression fierce. "You don't understand. The mark doesn't only mean danger, it means power. If you learn to use it, you won't just survive. You'll be able to stand against them." Daniel stared at her, his chest tight. Power? Him? It sounded impossible, yet something inside, something deep and unexplainable, stirred at her words. Before he could say more, another knock thundered against the door. This time it wasn't polite. It was heavy, demanding. The sound of authority and threat combined. Lyra's face hardened. "They're here again," Daniel whispered, fear in his voice. "What do we do?" She stepped in front of him, her silver hair falling across her glowing eyes like a curtain of steel. "We stand together, and we don't let them take you." The door shook again, louder this time, and a cold voice echoed through the hall. "Human, step forward. Do not resist." Daniel's blood ran cold. They knew. The pounding on the door grew louder, echoing through every corner of the apartment. Daniel stood frozen, his breath caught in his throat. The voice outside was cold, commanding, and it sent shivers down his spine. "Human, step forward. Do not resist." Daniel's legs felt weak. His heart raced, threatening to burst out of his chest. He looked at Lyra, standing firm in front of him, her glowing eyes locked on the door, like a shield of light. She was small, fragile in size, yet she carried herself like a wall that no one could break. "Lyra," he whispered, panic clear in his voice. "If they know I'm here, it's over. We should run." She shook her head. "If we run now, they will chase us and they won't stop. Running only buys us minutes, but standing here together, that might change everything." The knocking turned into pounding fists, the metal frame of the door rattling under the force. Dust fell from the ceiling. They were seconds away from breaking it down. Daniel grabbed Lyra's arm, his voice shaking. "Why are you doing this? You could hand me over and save yourself. Your people would reward you. Why risk your life for me?" Her glowing eyes softened, though fear still lingered in them. "Because the choice was mine. I could have betrayed you, I could have let them in last night, but I didn't. And I won't. Because you're more than just a mark to me." Daniel's breath caught. Her words burned in his chest. He had never expected loyalty, not like this, not from someone who barely knew him. But she wasn't lying. He could feel the truth in her trembling voice. The door cracked under the next blow. "Open!" the hunters roared. Daniel clenched his fists. "If they take me, what will they do?" Lyra swallowed hard. "They will use you. They will chain you. They will force the mark awake even if it kills you." Daniel felt cold dread crawl up his spine. He had lived his whole life thinking he was ordinary. And now, because of a birthmark, he might be turned into a weapon. He looked into Lyra's eyes. "So what do I do?" Her answer came without hesitation. Choose. Do you want to be their tool? Or do you want to fight? The question echoed inside him. He had never thought of himself as a fighter. He was just a man, struggling through life, living paycheck to paycheck, sharing an apartment with a roommate who happened to be from another world. But now he was something else. Something hunted. Something dangerous. The door groaned as a metal bar slid through the crack. They were forcing it open. Time was running out. Daniel's hands shook. I don't know how to fight. I don't know how to use this. Mark. Lyra stepped closer, her hand pressing against his chest. Her touch was warm, steadying his trembling. You don't need to know everything. You only need to choose. Once you choose, the mark will answer. Daniel looked down at her. Her glowing eyes burned with determination. She wasn't afraid for herself. She was afraid for him. And yet, she was ready to stand against her own people even if it meant death. The door slammed again, bending under the pressure. Splinters cracked from the frame. Daniel's mind raced. If he surrendered, maybe they would spare her. But no, they wouldn't. If she had hidden him once, they would never forgive her. She would be punished alongside him. He clenched his jaw, feeling something stir inside him. Something hot. Something alive. I won't let them take me, he said, his voice firm now. Lyra's lips parted, relief washing over her face. Then it's decided. The final slam echoed, and the door burst open. 3 hunters stormed in, armored and armed, their glowing blue eyes locked on Daniel. Human. One barked, raising a weapon that hummed with deadly energy. You are claimed. Daniel's chest tightened. His shoulder burned where the mark lay hidden beneath his shirt. The heat spread down his arm across his skin. He gasped, clutching it. The hunters stepped closer, weapons aimed. But before Daniel could fall, Lyra moved in front of him, her arms spread wide. He is mine, she declared, her voice shaking yet fierce. You will not take him. The hunters paused. One sneered. Yours? You dare claim him? Her glowing eyes flared brighter. Yes, I claim him under the ancient bond. He is under my protection. Daniel's breath caught. He didn't know what she meant, but the word struck the hunters like a weapon. They hesitated, uncertain. The leader stepped forward, his eyes narrowing. Then you betray your people. For him. Lyra's voice broke, but held steady. I choose him. Daniel's heart pounded. In that moment he realized, this wasn't just her choice. It was his too. And he had made it. The mark on his shoulder burned brighter, and the hunters took a step back. The room glowed faintly as Daniel's shoulder burned hotter and hotter. The mark under his shirt pulsed like living fire, and the hunters froze, their blue eyes widening. They had expected him to be weak, helpless, easy to capture. But what they saw now was something far more dangerous. Daniel gasped, clutching at his chest. His legs trembled, but he didn't fall. Instead, he felt a surge of strength flowing through his veins, a strength he had never known before. His heart pounded like thunder, and every beat seemed to shake the air around him. The lead hunter stepped back, his weapon still aimed, but his voice unsteady. The mark, it awakens. Daniel looked at Lyra, who stood protectively in front of him. Her glowing eyes widened in shock, but there was also something else. Hope. Daniel, she whispered urgently. Don't be afraid. The mark is answering you. Use it. He shook his head. I don't know how. You don't need to, she said firmly. Just trust it. Trust yourself. The hunters didn't wait. One lunged forward, raising his blade. The weapon crackled, with alien energy, its glow sharp and deadly. Daniel's instinct screamed at him to run, but before he could move, his arm shot out on its own. A burst of light exploded from his palm, slamming into the hunter's chest. The soldier was thrown across the room, crashing into the wall with a roar of pain. Daniel staggered back, staring at his own hand. The skin glowed faintly. Lines of light tracing up his arm. What did I just do? Lyra's voice was fierce. You fought back. You're not helpless anymore. The other two hunters roared in anger. One raised his weapon, the other charged. Daniel's mark pulsed brighter, filling the room with a humming sound, like the echo of 1,000 voices whispering from the stars. His body moved with a speed he didn't think possible, dodging the strike and shoving the attacker back with a strength that felt inhuman. But the hunters were skilled. The leader aimed his weapon again, a glowing bolt of energy shooting straight toward Daniel. Lyra jumped, shoving Daniel aside. The bolt grazed her shoulder, burning through her skin. She cried out in pain, collapsing to the floor. Lyra! Daniel shouted, rushing to her side. His chest tightened at the sight of her wound. Her shimmering skin blackened where the energy had struck. She looked up at him, her glowing eyes dim but steady. Don't stop. You have to finish this. If they take you now, everything is lost. Daniel's hands shook as he held her, fury rising in him like fire. He turned back to the hunters, his vision blurring with rage. The mark flared brighter than ever, spilling golden light across the room. The hunters hesitated, fear flickering in their glowing eyes. You will not take me, Daniel growled, his voice low but filled with power. And you will never hurt her again. The mark erupted, a wave of energy blasting outward. The hunters were thrown off their feet, their weapons clattering to the ground. The force cracked the walls, shaking the entire apartment building. Lights flickered, alarms blared, in the distance. When the dust settled, the hunters struggled weakly on the floor. Their armor was scorched, their eyes dim. They looked at Daniel not as prey, but as something terrifying, something untouchable. The leader coughed, his voice trembling. This isn't the end. The council will come for you. And next time, not even your protector will save you. With that, the hunters dragged themselves up and vanished into the shadows, retreating quickly, their pride shattered. Daniel stood trembling, his chest heaving. The mark slowly dimmed, the glow fading until only a faint warmth remained. He collapsed to his knees beside Lyra, who was still clutching her wounded shoulder. Are you okay? He asked desperately. She winced but managed a weak smile. You did it. You chose to fight. The mark accepted you. Daniel shook his head, his hands still shaking. I almost lost you. I don't want this power if it means you'll get hurt. Her glowing eyes softened. This isn't about wanting. It's about fate. The mark chose you, Daniel. And now? So do I. Her hand found his, their fingers trembling as they locked together. For a moment, the chaos faded. The room was broken, the air filled with dust, but in that quiet corner, something unbreakable formed between them. Daniel realized he wasn't alone in this fight. He had someone who would stand beside him no matter how dangerous things became. But deep inside, he also knew the hunters were right. This was only the beginning. The council would come. More powerful enemies would rise. Yet for the first time since the accident, Daniel didn't feel powerless. He felt ready. Outside, the night sky glowed with alien lights. Somewhere out there, forces were already moving against him. But here in this broken apartment, a human and an alien girl sat side by side, bound by choice, by trust, and by something stronger than either of them could understand. The turning point had come, and nothing would ever be the same again.